This month, the month of May, is the month of power. And power is the ability to master or have authority and control. That's self-mastery, authority over my own ego mind, and self-control. And so for this past month, we've talked a little bit about, firstly, the power of praise, how we use praise to bring about our good by praising our good. We talked about the power of vision, envisioning our good. We talked about the power of truth, naming and claiming our good. And now, today, we're going to talk about the power of action. And I thought of one small step, because that's sort of been a theme for me today. One small step. Oh, I wanted to show you my centering thought. My centering thought simply came from the fifth principle of unity, and that's through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth we know. It's not good enough that we just know the truth. It's important that we live the truth. And the Bible verse I chose for this was where the master teacher Jesus said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water and came towards Jesus. And I thought, so Peter is the disciple who Charles Fillmore equates with faith. So if you think of Peter as being the metaphysical meaning of Peter being the faith that we are, faith itself, the faith of God, took a step out of the boat and moved towards the Christ. This is what the power is of taking a step, of taking an action. It's that power that enables us to engage with the power that we are, the power that is God through us, that inner God power that moves us, that creates our life, that brings us closer to the Christ consciousness that we are. So this is the thought for today. And so as I was thinking about that idea of Peter stepping out of the boat, I was thinking that so reminded me of that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where Indiana is, I don't know if you know this movie, but this is like every New Thought teacher talks about this one. I've heard this talked about and talked so many times. I'm sure Sandy has talked about it even, where, you know, he's standing on the edge of this cliff and there's this bottomless chasm in front of him, and the riddle that he's got in front of him says you have to take a step of faith. And so he takes a deep breath. He looks like he's going to drop right down into that chasm. He takes a step, and sure enough, the bridge appears, because it was all an optical illusion. The power in that is, if you want to get to the other side, you have to take a step. You have to use your innate God power to take a step in order to have the bridge appear. The bridge wouldn't have appeared if he hadn't taken the step. There's a great quote by Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." And that's in fact what this is about. That the staircase isn't even a thing until you take the first step. It's your step, the power that you are, that takes that step. That power is also what is creating the next and the next and the next. And so you have to dive into that power of who you are by taking the step. Now, it's interesting to me that taking a step, taking an action, is not always an external thing. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But there are two types of actions. There are inward actions, internal actions within us. Things like the song talked about, if today was your last day, would you forgive your enemies? Would you call someone you know? That's an external. Would you forgive your enemies? That's an internal. These are both steps that we take. These are both actions we take that help us to increase our awareness of that power of God that is within us, that inner God power. So the idea behind the one small step came to me as Steph and I were watching a bunch of things about moon landings and space travel and Elon Musk going to Mars and all kinds of different stuff about that. So we were watching some science shows and documentaries, and I was recalling, and it's actually 21 years ago this week was when on May 25th, 1960, was when John F. Kennedy said, within the next decade, we are going to land an astronaut on the moon. Now, the actual landing was in 1969, July 1969, when Neil Armstrong took his first step off the lunar lander and said, I'm sure we all know the quote, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But what was the first step? The first step was not Armstrong getting off of the lunar lander. The small steps that had to take it, there was tens of thousands of small steps that had to be taken to get him there by tens of thousands of people over that 9-year period between when JFK said, we're going to land a person on the moon, till the time when Neil Armstrong took his step off the lunar lander. That was thousands and thousands and thousands of small steps. But the first step was when the decision was made. The first step was when JFK said, no, we are putting a person on the moon. And this is part of what I wanted to get at today, was we have this deeply internal set of actions that have to be taken, because until we make the decision, none of the outward actions happen. It's the internal action that really is the beginning place of the power that we have to move forward. And that's that internal action that we so need to lean into, that we so need to find our way to, because that is the point of power that brings us into the bridge opening up in front of us, the stairwell being built in front of us, the lunar lander setting down on the moon. It's that first step that is the power of decision. And Raymond Charles Barker was a CSL minister, Science of Mind minister. He was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes. And he wrote a book called The Power of Decision. And what he said was the creative process awaits your decision. The creative process, meaning the creative process of God, awaits your decision and your calm acceptance of the necessary work on your part following the decision. The idea follows idea as you proceed in the work of bringing to pass that which you decide would now be. The creative process, that inner God power, awaits your decision. That's the first step. That's the one small step. So as I was thinking about this one small step, I was thinking that there are many small steps that we can take on those internal actions that we need to take in order to engage our God power. Those internal actions include things like what the song said, like forgiveness. It includes things like making a decision. It includes things like being willing to make a mistake. It includes things like being willing to change my mind. It includes things like being willing to begin again. There's a lot of willingness in there, right? Being willing is a step. It's an internal step. It's an internal action that we take. And that internal action that we take paves the way, creates the next step, lets loose the bridge for us to be doing the outward things that we need to do. But we can't do any of those until we've done the internal work. So that's always our place to start. We always start in the avenue of mind, in the avenue of heart. We always start in embodying our truth, embodying our power before we move out and do the things that we need to do. Before Peter got out of the boat, he asked Jesus to help him have faith. And then he got out of the boat. He did his internal work. He did his work in the boat. And then he got out of the boat and took the step and walked towards Jesus on water. This is how we move towards our higher self. This is how we move towards that highest beingness that we already are. And it's a deeply powerful process for us to allow ourselves to make that decision, to allow ourselves the freedom to make mistakes, to allow ourselves the freedom to change our mind when we need to change our mind, to allow ourselves the freedom to begin again. So what I thought about was that the decision, the power of the decision sets in motion the power of the creative process, like Raymond Charles Barker said. The power of making mistakes, allowing ourselves to make mistakes, sets in motion the power of understanding and discernment. The power of changing our mind sets in motion within us the power of wisdom. The power of beginning again sets in motion within us the power of tenacity, which is really another function of faith. All of this internal action is what sets in motion our power outside of us. And one of the things that I notice about this 1 month in the 12 powers is that it affects everything. Right? It is within everything. As we take care of our inner power, as we take care of our own inner ability to have authority over our own mind and our own ego and our own thought processes, as we take authority over our own decision making and our own way of being in the world, we take that power for ourselves. That is, it's like I believe it was Charles Fillmore that said it's like a baptism. It cleanses all of the other powers. It allows for all of the other powers to be raised up. But it's the first step, right? Not all of the disciples got out of the boat. Peter was the one that got out of the boat because Peter's faith. And so he got out of the boat. He took that faith that moved himself into that idea of power. And that idea of power is what brings us into the support of all of the other powers that we have, all of the discernment, all of the wisdom, all of the love. We use our power to cleanse and to bring our minds into an awareness of all of the other powers that are a part of us. And those powers are really, to me, it's all about different aspects or attributes of God, different essences of God, or different natures of God that are all within the one nature, within the one thing. And so we take and learn about all of those different powers, all of those different essences, so that we can know how to use them in our life. And so when we're at a place where we need to make a decision, when we're at a place where we need to move forward in some way, we can enlist this power within us so that we can take that step. We can make the decision. We can have the willingness. We can do what we need to do internally so that we can take the step externally. Now, for those of you, there's some of us who are find it easy to make the external decisions. We find it easy to take external actions. moving out into the world, we find it more difficult to take the internal actions and being present with ourselves and discerning for ourselves. If you are one of those doers that is out in the world, just taking action, then know that you might want to scale it back and work on the inner action instead. You might want to take some of those doingnesses and create more beingness space in your life. The beingness being that internal action. And if you're one of those people that is very internal and finds it very easy to be with yourself, you may find it more difficult to be out in the world, taking the actions out in the world, taking those actual steps out in the world. And so you might want to focus more of your energy and attention on taking actual physical steps out into the world, doing the things that you have already chewed over so well in your mind. I have times of both. I have times where I get so caught up in my mind that I can't get out there and do. And then I have times when I'm just so much about the doing that I'm really not about the thinking and discerning. And I need to be balanced in that. So balancing the outer action and the inner action is so important to be able to make wise decisions and wise movements in life, and to use our power in a way that is going to be in alignment with our highest wisdom. And there's a really great quote by Tama Keeves. I don't have this one on a slide. But she talks about that idea of just being willing to take care of ourselves through the process of our actions and our decisions. She said, get real about what you want. These are your years. Dare again. Maybe you'll hit it out of the ballpark right away. Maybe it will take you 1,000 swings. It doesn't matter. Take your swing. It's what you're here for. It's what you're here for. It's not enough. As Charles Fillmore said, as our 5 principles said, it's not enough that we are just learning the truth. We have to be out there in the world living our truth. And that involves taking a step in some way, shape, or form. So because I know that some of us, including myself, are at times maybe afraid of taking a step, afraid of making a mistake, afraid of we have all of those internalized not enoughnesses that come up for us when we're getting ready to take a step and it feels scary. I want to just give us a gentle invocation to bring us into a better idea of how we can do this in a way that's kind to ourselves. So this is from Tama Keeves again, Thriving Through Uncertainty. And she says, I bless this segment of my life. I take in all that it offered me and all that I received. I thank myself for everything I tried, even if I didn't think it worked. I thank myself for the times I believed in myself, even if I didn't sustain it. I thank myself for the times I know I got it right. That stays with me forever. I thank myself for the times I stretched and for the times I invested in my truth or hunted for it. I thank myself for it all and for all the good that is yet to be revealed from this time. We take hold of our power and take dominion, authority in our lives when we use this power as we live in the world. And doing that in a way that is gentle to ourselves, knowing that we will make mistakes and we have the opportunity to begin again, always. That's the way we build up our confidence and our mental muscle and our heart muscle to be able to go out and take the bigger steps. And the beautiful thing is that as we give ourselves permission to not always do things right, We have no idea what the power of those steps will be. Because even a mistake in my mind can be something brilliant in the mind of God. As I allow my small ego mind to simply rest, I can access that higher mind that says, oh, you think that was a mistake? Well, I'm going to show you what I can do with that. We have that opportunity day in, day out. And so that's why the idea of beginning again is such a beautiful thing. Taking one small step again and again and again. Taking one small step, not knowing what the next step will look like. Taking one small step, not knowing where the bridge is going to appear. We do this with gentleness and love for ourselves, and we bring ourselves into the world in a greater way, and God gets to use that. The God that is within me gets to use that for the betterment of the world, because God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. There you go, Sandy. All right, so thank you so much for this time together. I'm going to end us off with an affirmation. May life bless you abundantly. May grace and goodness walk with you every day. May love and joy expand within you, and may you know peace. And so it is.